We live in an era where the social contract is being tested. Inequality is rising, and the nature of work is changing. In the middle of this conversation, one idea has moved from the fringes of economic theory to the center of global debate: universal basic income, or UBI. But what is it really? At its most fundamental level, UBI represents a radical shift in social welfare. It is not a loan. It is not a tax rebate. It is a system of periodic cash payments delivered directly to all individuals. The crucial distinction here is that these payments are made regardless of your income or your employment status. It proposes a world of unconditional freedom, where financial survival isn't tethered to a timesheet. To truly understand this concept, we have to look at its architecture. UBI is built on 5 specific pillars that distinguish it from every other welfare program we currently use. First, they are periodic payments. This isn't a one-time lump sum. It's a reliable rhythm of income. Second, it is cash, not vouchers. Recipients can spend it on whatever they need, not just what the government dictates. Third, it focuses on individual recipients, giving agency to every person rather than households. Fourth, it offers universal coverage. Every citizen is included. And finally, perhaps the most controversial pillar: no conditions. There are no work requirements, no means testing, and no strings attached. It is simply a universal right. It is easy to think of UBI as a trendy modern idea born in Silicon Valley, but its roots go back centuries. In 1516, the philosopher Thomas More wrote Utopia. In it, he proposed the survival income specifically to prevent theft and ensure basic dignity for all citizens. He realized that desperate people are forced to break the law to survive. Jump forward to 1797, and we meet one of America's founding fathers, Thomas Paine. He argued for a citizen's dividend, viewing it as compensation from collective land ownership, which he believed was a natural right. In the 20th century, the idea crossed political lines. In 1967, Martin Luther King Jr. called for a guaranteed income to abolish poverty and provide economic security for every American. Surprisingly, just a few years later, the conservative economist Milton Friedman proposed the negative income tax, a market-friendly approach to supporting low-income households. If this idea is so old, why is it suddenly everywhere today? The answer lies in the machines. We are facing a technological unemployment threat unlike anything in history. Automation and artificial intelligence are performing tasks that used to provide stable careers for millions. The argument for UBI suggests that we are approaching a point where there simply won't be enough work for everyone. Therefore, we must start decoupling labor from survival. We may need to build a society where your ability to eat and have shelter is not dependent on a job that a robot might do better tomorrow. Beyond technology, there is a moral argument. The primary goal of UBI is poverty reduction. Imagine a society where no one can fall through the cracks. UBI creates an immediate income floor. It guarantees security for basic needs, ensuring that every citizen starts their month above the poverty line. This changes the psychological landscape of a nation. It transforms the question from "how will I survive" to "how will I live?" There is also a pragmatic argument that appeals to those who want smaller, more efficient government. It comes down to administrative efficiency. Our current welfare systems are a labyrinth of bureaucracy, red tape, and oversight. They require armies of administrators to decide who is deserving of help. UBI offers a radical simplification. By giving the money to everyone, we eliminate the cost of checking if people are eligible. We stop policing the poor and simply provide the platform for them to succeed. What happens to the workplace when workers aren't desperate? UBI is often framed as a tool for empowering workers. When your survival is guaranteed, you gain the power to say no. You can say no to exploitative wages, unsafe conditions, or abusive management. This creates a stronger bargaining position for the entire labor force. Employers would have to make jobs attractive enough that people choose to do them rather than doing them because they are afraid of starving. But we must be realistic. The critics of UBI raise serious, fundamental concerns. The first is the sheer scale of the cost and inflation. Providing a meaningful monthly payment to every citizen would require enormous implementation costs, potentially trillions of dollars. Critics argue that injecting this much cash into the economy could trigger inflation risk concerns, driving up the price of rent and groceries, which would ultimately render the basic income useless. Then there is the question of human nature. This is the critique regarding the work disincentive. The fear is simple. Will people stop working? If you get paid to exist, will you still clock in? Critics worry about labor shortage fears, suggesting that essential jobs, the ones that are hard and demanding, would go unfilled, causing the engines of our economy to grind to a halt. There is also a moral critique regarding the misuse of funds. Opponents worry about temptation goods. They ask if this money will fuel addiction rather than aid survival. This brings us to a philosophical standoff: paternalism versus autonomy. Should the state control how the poor spend their money to ensure it's used correctly? Or is the freedom to make your own mistakes and your own choices a fundamental part of being a citizen? We don't have to rely entirely on theory. We have real-world examples. Look at the Alaska Permanent Fund. This system has been running since 1982. It pays an annual dividend to residents derived from state oil revenues. It is, effectively, a form of basic income. And the results? The data shows no employment reduction. Alaskans didn't stop working just because they received a check. They used that money to invest in their local economy. More recently, we look to Europe. The Finland pilot, which ran from 2017 to 2018, gave us modern data. The results were fascinating. Contrary to the lazy worker theory, there was actually a small employment increase among recipients. But the most significant finding was a major well-being boost. People were less stressed, healthier, and more optimistic about their future. It turns out that security doesn't make people lazy. It makes them well. In the United States, the city of Stockton, California, launched the SEED program to test these ideas. Critics expected the money to be wasted. The data proved them wrong. The recipients spent the vast majority of their funds on food, utilities, and transport. It debunked the vice-spending myth entirely. Furthermore, the program resulted in higher full-time employment rates. When people could afford to fix their cars to get to interviews, they found better jobs. So, if it works, how do we pay for it? There are several proposed funding models. Economists suggest a mix of solutions. We could implement a progressive income tax on top earners. We could institute a wealth tax on assets to tap into accumulated capital. Some propose a VAT consumption tax on luxury goods. Others look to the environment, suggesting we use carbon tax revenue to fund the future of humanity. As we discuss policy, we must distinguish UBI from its cousin, Guaranteed Minimum Income, or GMI. While UBI is universal for everyone, rich or poor, GMI is a means-tested top-up. GMI targets low earners to ensure an income floor guarantee. While GMI is cheaper, it retains the bureaucracy of means testing that UBI seeks to eliminate. One of the strongest technical arguments for UBI is its ability to solve the welfare cliff. In our current system, if you find a low-paying job, you often lose your benefits immediately. This acts as a massive current system disincentive. It effectively taxes you for working. Because UBI is unconditional, You keep the payment even when you get a job. This ensures that work always pays, removing the fear that taking a job will leave you poorer than before. To embrace UBI, we may need to rethink ownership. This is the concept of UBI as a citizen's dividend. The philosophy is that natural resources belong to all. Just as Alaskans share their oil wealth, perhaps all citizens should share in the wealth of their nation's resources. In the 21st century, this idea is evolving into a data dividend. If tech companies are becoming billionaires using our data, perhaps they owe the citizens a dividend for that raw material. The impact of UBI goes deeper than the wallet. It changes the mind. We are talking about profound psychological impacts. Poverty consumes your mind. It reduces your IQ by forcing you to constantly calculate survival. UBI offers cognitive bandwidth liberation. By removing the daily panic of survival, we see improved mental health. We see a reduction in stress and an explosion in creativity. When people aren't worried about starving, they have the energy to invent, to care, and to dream. Politics is usually a straight line of opposition, but UBI creates a unique convergence. It finds support across the political spectrum. On the left, it is championed as a tool for social justice and equality, a way to redistribute wealth and end poverty. On the right, it is seen as a path to liberty and small government, a way to cut bureaucracy and give individuals maximum freedom. It is one of the few policies that speaks to the core values of both sides. So, where do we go from here? This is the future of UBI. We are moving from pilots to policy. The experiments in Finland, Stockton, and elsewhere have given us the data. Now, the question is political will. UBI is about redefining the social contract. It asks us what we owe each other as human beings. In a world of abundance and automation, do we continue to insist that survival must be earned? Or do we declare that dignity is a birthright? Thank you for watching.